Okay guys, in today's episode, we're going to go over how CCI is laid out, explain conditions and outcomes, talk about the important commands you're going to need throughout your use of CCI, and create our very first event. Stick around. Hello, my name is Keel, and I am one half of Two Mere Mortals. We stream every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday nights over on Twitch/Two Mere Mortals. Come by and check us out. All of these things we do today are in our streams. You can see them live in action. We'd love it. Leave us a follow and like and subscribe to this video if you want to see more content like this. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Okay, for today's video, we're going to be working in Sky Factory 4, but any mod pack running Minecraft version 1.12 will work for this, like we talked about in the first video. If you want to know how to set this up, make sure and reference our first video in the series. It goes over every detail of how to set it up. We're going to go into a single-player world that I set up just for testing this real quick. Okay, I've got my test world pulled up here. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the mod, let's go over a few commands that you will need. If you're in the middle of a stream and you're having trouble with things triggering, you might need to check the status to see if CCI is in fact connected to your chat and or Streamlabs. You can do that with a CCI status. That will say if it's connected or not. You may get an error on either one of those if somehow it's disconnected from those services. If for some reason you need to reconnect to either one of those services, you don't have to shut your stream down. You can do this in the middle of a stream, provided those services are up and working correctly. But you can type CCI, reconnect, and then Streamlabs, all one word, will reconnect you to the Streamlabs service. And the same command with Twitch chat, all one word, will connect you to Twitch. That's a good way so you don't have to restart everything, restart your game if those services go down in the middle of your stream. Another good one you may need is if you make a change in the middle of a stream session and for some reason those changes have not taken place, you can reload the configuration file with a Cci Reload. Most of the time when you save a config, it will immediately submit, but occasionally you may have trouble with it not reading the new changes. But you can type this in and it will automatically reload. It won't give you a status that it did it, but it will reload all the configuration again. And of course, the command that you're going to be using the most often is going to be CCI edit, which will get you into the GUI of this mod. When you first start out, you'll have three things on the left side of here, like we talked about in the last episode. Okay, let's go over where each one of the different event types are located in this config. So first we're going to start with subscriptions. If you go to Streamlabs, Configs, this top configuration, Types, and Subscriptions. Inside of this one, you can put all the different configurations you want that deal with subscriptions. So if a subscription happens, whether it be a Prime, Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3, inside of this folder is where you'll load up all the different kinds of things you want to happen. I have already, if you're using the config that I gave you in the last stream that you downloaded, yours will look like this. I already have it set up to where the notification for every subscription that comes in, no matter what tier, will give you a toast message up and above my head. And I have them broken down in the three different tier types, and Prime subs are on the same level as a Tier 1, considering they're the same price. So most people set them up to be the same type of event. So those are located there. We're going to first go over where each thing's located in here, and then we'll do a sample config on one of them, and I'll show you some of the basic features of that. So subscriptions are located here. Bits are, of course, on the same thing. Bits are right there. There's a notification, and I have them broken down in these increments, but you can break them down in any increment you want. When we create one later, I'll show you how you do that. Raids are here. Hosts there, obviously. Follows. And resubs. Since they changed the way subscriptions work inside of Twitch here a couple months ago. Now there are two types. If you in subscriptions here, these are only for new subscriptions. If somebody resubscribes, they've already subscribed, it will end up as a second category, which is called resub. So you'll have to do those separately, which gives you some advantages. It's kind of a pain to have to create two sets of configurations for that, because in resub you'll have to create if you want them to be no different, you have to create two separate sets of the same commands, one in resub and one in subscription. But it also gives you some more flexibility. Let's say you want to give someone who's an original subscriber something new and different for their first time versus somebody who's subscribed for 12 months. It's considered a resub. You can do something different for them. So that breaks them down separately. For donations, they are in a different spot. The second configuration over here is for donations. In the types, donation, and it was broken down in the same increments as those bits we had earlier. The reason for this is because this comes through Streamlabs. The other ones come through Twitch itself, so they're broken up separately. That is all assuming you have Streamlabs. So that's where everything is located on the donation side. There is one other area that you may want to be concerned with, and that's for chat. If you go back to the beginning and choose chat configs, inside of these types, these message types here, is where you will put any of the configs you want to deal with something that happens in chat. So if somebody says a specific word, like we have a game we play in our stream called Word of the Day, where if you say a word of the day, which ours happen to be set up as Two More Mortals because I just for testing, then you can create an event to happen. Okay, so let's go back into explain the conditions versus outcomes. So let's create our very first config. We're going to create something on a subscription, a tier 1 subscription. So let's create a brand new one. We're going to you'll choose this category and hit the plus, which will add a new component in this area here. It'll just call it event. That's the default name. And we're going to click on it and rename it. So on the name, we're going to call this my first event. This name doesn't matter at all. It's only for your references so you can see it. It won't affect the way the thing functions in any way. It's just a note, basically. So inside each event, there are all these different things you can do. Of course, the name we did, there are conditions, which are these specific things have to happen in order for it to trigger. If you leave it at 0 conditions, then every single subscription that comes through will trigger this event. If you set specific conditions, like the tier type, or the amount of months that you've subscribed, or the specific person that subscribed, any kind of variables like that you can set conditions for. If you leave it blank, like I said, it will just do, since it's under the category of subscription, all subscriptions will trigger this event. Also, some other things you might want to pay attention to is this triggers from any condition met. If you, let's say you wanted to put several different conditions in here, but you don't care if all of them met, you just want it, any one of them might be met, then you would turn this on. Just double click on it and it turns it to true. Most of the time you're going to leave that blank. But the other thing is allow other events to trigger. For some reason, it defaults as null, which is no. So this is the way CCI works. Once a subscription comes in, the first thing it does is goes to the top of the list, and it will work its way down to the bottom. So at any point here, let's say it looks at this one, it tries to trigger, it looks at the conditions for sub. There are no conditions, so it'll trigger. If this is set to allow other events to trigger null, then it will stop right there. And it won't go any further. It won't look at the next ones on the list. So this order is very important. This will come into play later on if you do some way more complicated types of events. The things that we do in our stream, if you want to come by and see those, we have set up to where it will. My wife and I both streamed at the same time in the same game, so we want things to alternate between the two of us. So there's a trick to doing that, and this comes in really handy for that. Other events trigger. If you want it to stop at a certain point as it goes down the list and not go any further, you would leave that to true. I mean to false, to null. And if, like I said, we created this new one, it defaults to null. I don't know why they did that. They should never have done that. So you want to make sure when you create a new one, every time, if you want other things in this list or below this item to trigger, you want to make sure and turn this to true. It will allow other events to trigger. Otherwise, everything you put below here will not work if this is set to null. Make sense? All right, the single outcome only is for if you had a whole list of outcomes in here and you just want a single, any one of them to trigger and not all of them, you would set that to true. Playtime is if it's the duration of the event. Let's say it's something that, I can't think of an example, maybe a sound that plays that lasts a long time. You only want it to play 1 second of it. Or sometimes the toast that comes in, you can make it really short or something. I don't know. I normally leave this null too. The delay is how long between the time that the notification, the event came in and when it actually triggers. Most people set this up to where when somebody donates, something happens in their stream immediately, and so they're surprised by it because it's a mob that spawns in, or it's something that's going to affect them. If they get pre-warning to it, it will affect how you play. Sometimes you might want to put a delay in there. Let's say you get the notification through your OBS. Oh, somebody subscribed, but you want to be prepared for what is about to happen for whatever reason. You can set a delay on here in milliseconds. Oh, in ticks. It's ticks. This tip right here does give some handy tips from time to time. So you might want to pay attention to what it says down here. Occasionally they give some good tips in these little box. Cooldown is how long between each one of the events. Let's say you only want someone to be able to trigger something once every stream, or once every hour, or once every 5 minutes. Like, for example, hosts don't cost the viewers anything to do. And sometimes if you get somebody to host you for one viewer, it triggers whatever event that happens. You don't want everybody in the stream to suddenly host you for one viewer to cause havoc in your stream. Let's say you wanted to do that. You can turn the cooldown to how long between each event can happen. It'll ignore everything after that. So, okay, back to our event here. We're going to create let's say we want to make a zombie spawn in if somebody gets a tier 1 subscription. So we're going to say, okay, we want it to be a tier 1 subscription. So let's go into conditions, click on the plus. That will give us a box of all these options. And some of these, to this day, there's still a lot of this functionality that none of us in the community really know a whole lot about how it works because, like I said, very little documentation on it. So we're going to go to a variable condition and choose that. Double click on it or choose it and hit done. The red indicates that it has not been configured. At this point, if anything is red, it's not going to function. And there's a possibility if you saved at this point that the program may back out anything that has got a red text. I'm not sure if it does. I know if you create a config that is invalid in some way, either it conflicts with something or has a problem, it will, when you save it, it will delete the last thing you did. We've learned that the hard way. We're going to put a condition here. Our variable is going to be called, I happen to know this, for subscriptions, it's called sub_plan. That is the variable for the tier of subscription. And there are 4 possible results for that. There is 1,000 for a tier 1 sub, 2,000 for a tier 2, 3,000 for a tier 3, and prime for a prime sub. So we want this to trigger for a tier 1 and or a prime sub. So we're going to put 2 conditions in here. Go back to condition, hit the plus sign, create variable condition. And in this one, we will change it to sub plan and prime with a capital P. Now, the way this is set now, there are 2 conditions. You can set it to say trigger from any condition met true. That will make it where if it is a tier 1 sub or a prime sub, either one will trigger this. If you left this to trigger from any condition met null, then it would have to have both a tier 1 and a prime sub, which is impossible. So you want to make sure and pay attention to all these attributes here. So the outcome we want to do, let's do something simple like make it spawn in a zombie. There is probably an entire long series possible in Minecraft commands. I mean, there is probably, you could do a 100-part series on that. We're not going to do much of that. You'll see some examples of some of the the commands you can run in Minecraft, but there are literally tens of thousands of different commands you can run, and they all varied based on which version of Minecraft you're playing, which mod pack you're playing, which mods you're trying to trigger events from, and all of that. So that is where you have to be creative, and sometimes that information can be difficult to find depending on which mod you're trying to work with. So we're going to create an outcome. Let's create two outcomes. First, we're going to create a command outcome, which will run a command as just like a command block would in the game. We're going to choose command outcome, and this is where you would type in the actual command. So we're going to type in a really simple command here. We're going to say /execute, and we're going to put a $sign and say player, capital N for name. This variable right here, $player name, will automatically fill in for any player that is using this config. So let's say that someone else took your configuration, put it on their computer, and their Minecraft name is different from yours. It will automatically insert their name into this. So when I play it right now, my player name is Keelan. It will automatically run this command, and that $sign player name will fill in with my name. So it's executing as it's me, which playing on a server, you will have to have admin or op rights on that server in order to do these commands. We're going to execute player name. We're going to do 3 little tildes, just showing where the location is. We're going to summon Minecraft zombie, and we're going to say locate it right in front of me, and that's all we have to do. This will summon a zombie right in front of me once somebody subscribes. We're also going to do a second outcome of a sound. This will play a sound in the game, so you'll hear it when it happens, when it spawns in. There's all kinds of options here you can do where you can change the pitch of the sound, you can change the volume of the sound, you can set whether it's targeted on a specific player. But all you really have to have in here for it to work is the sound name itself, which is a Minecraft sound name, and you can find those all over the internet. If you look for your version of Minecraft and a list of the possible sounds, you can find those. I'm going to do Minecraft:entity.lightning.thunder. This will make a lightning strike sound. Another thing to note here is that on the outcomes, it will by default do every outcome in this list unless it is set to single outcome only, or if in the outcome itself it has a weight. Weight is basically the percentage chance of this one event happening. So not exactly sure how that works, but if you leave weight at null, it will run everything in here. If you set weight to 10 on everything in here, it will choose one of the different outcomes to play. Somebody may have to clarify the details behind the weight in the comments if they know. I just know based on my other experiences that if you leave that at nothing, it will do every command outcome in here. Let's test out what we've done. Save and exit in the bottom right hand corner. That's what the little D is. You probably can't see it from my face, but the bottom right hand corner is save and exit. That will save your config, and it is already ready to go at this point. I'm going to do a quick test of the subscription through the Streamlabs website, and let's see if our handiwork was successful. It was successful. It spawned in 2 zombies because I had this one already set up. This was set up to outcome, the same exact thing, summon a zombie. So that worked. I'm going to delete this one now, which you just hit the X and it will remove it. And like I said in the last video, there is no undo. If you delete something like this and by mistake, make sure and don't save it. You can always hit exit without saving and it will undo what you just did. And anything else you may have done in that same session, but at least you will have to you'll get your fig back that you set up. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you have any further questions, hit us up on our Discord, send us a tweet, come by and see any of these examples on our Twitch channel. We stream every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday nights, and sometimes some various ones in between. We'll catch you next time.